No, but I'll tell you, that's the best part about the flex space is it's got such a large tenant pool, and in today's market, such a diverse tenant pool.
Diverse. That's what's cool about it.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, excited to have Cody Payne. Cody, how are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me, Todd.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining me. And Cody is the Senior VP at Colliers International. He specializes in selling industrial investment properties, mostly small bay flex space. So 19 years experience and over 850 successful transactions. He excels in leasing, management, market analysis, and strategic planning, and of course, leverages the Colliers platform to maximize value, ensure awesome results for his clients. So you have a book called Flex Space Domination. So I do want to dive into that. I'm actually excited to talk to you about the flex space because as we kind of talked about before the show, commercial real estate is going through a little bit of a, what do you want to call it? Challenge. Transition, whatever you want to call it. And what you specialize in is actually holding up pretty well, especially when you compare it to some of the other asset classes, office, multifamily, and so on. So I want to talk about, I'm excited to dive into this. Give our listeners a bit more, maybe about your background, anything that I missed, you want to make sure they know about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've got a great team here. We've been together a long time. We specialize in like you said, the small bay flex industrial space. We do it all over Texas. Actually, work all over the U.S. in it, and something I've done for a long time. Love it. It's expanded, evolved, shaped so much over the past few years. 2018, it really caught a lot of momentum, and then when COVID hit, it actually caught a tremendous amount of momentum, and it's just continued to do better and better since then. But I focus mainly just on the investment sales side of it. So we help people develop it, help people sell it, portfolio it, sell it off to institutions, whatever they want to do with it. That's what my main forte is. We got guys that can help lease, design, figure out the development side a little bit more for a lot of newer developers that are coming into it. Because like I was telling you earlier, there's a lot of people from other asset classes that have been coming to it. And so it's a very friendly asset class for the newbie developer, or for somebody that's never done it.
Why is it friendly? What do you mean by that?
Well, I believe that it's a much easier build. And so when you're building it compared to retail, office, or multifamily, there's a lot less components into it. And kind of like what we touched on earlier about storage, storage is, whenever you have a tenant leave and you're releasing it, you virtually have no TIs or tenant improvement dollars or anything that's causing your bottom line to go up. And so flex, I believe, is the next asset class above storage that has probably the lowest, capital dollars that get put into it. And so but when you're building it, it's a very efficient product. There's a lot of one-stop shop builders that can build these things. And so the learning curve to build it, I believe, is probably more on the friendlier side compared to other asset classes. We don't have a lot of people have issues building it. The only issues that they ever run into is maybe city code, red tape, things like
Zoning. Yeah. I mean, fairly easy build, right? You're not putting a ton of bathrooms and kitchens and that type of stuff into them. It's essentially some walls and concrete,
metal building and concrete. I mean, there's a lot of different builds you can do.
Right.
That's like the efficient build is what we call it. But especially if you go find land that's out in the county with no restrictions on it, then you're kind of people build these things without concrete driveways. They just do gravel, and they get away from fire code issues. And there's a lot of different ways that you can build these facilities.
So for the listeners who are like, what the heck, what are we talking about here? What define what you're talking about as far as flex space goes and what you specialize in? Like give us a definition of what it is, and then maybe a couple of user examples.
So what flex space is, and this is something you'll see when you're driving down the road, it can be designed a lot of different ways, but what a lot of people are familiar with is like a metal building that has a bunch of small tenants in it, maybe a bunch of subcontractor style tenants in there. A lot of times the spaces will be between 1,000 square feet up to 10,000 square feet. But what makes it flexible is if you have, say, a 10,000 square foot building chopped up into just say 2,000 square foot bays, it allows the tenant to go into 2,000 square feet. And if they expand, they can go into 4. And you kind of have the 2,000 square foot increments. That's what makes it flexible. But the type of tenants you'll see in these things can range anywhere from, your pool companies, landscapers, construction guys to, depending on how you build it, if you do kind of a showroom glass or whatnot at the front, a lot of these will have, garage doors on them as well. But depending on how you build the frontage, we've seen these guys get retail tenants. We've seen them pull from the office sector. And that's really the big thing that has helped expand it over these past few years is the asset classes that it's kind of taken key tenants away from. So it's not uncommon now to sell a flex industrial building that has retail tenants and even office tenants in it.
Yeah, I've seen that quite a bit here. Is it, you're seeing almost a storefront, maybe not a storefront, but like the landscaping company, that's where their office is.
Yeah.
But they also are storing some of their equipment there. They might even have some display where people can come in and they can see what they've got going on there, cabinet companies and so on, like that, where you can walk in, you can see their nice displays. They got a little office, and then they got their cabinets as well, that are, that's where they store them before they install them. So you got a lot of different uses, which is another part of the flex, right? It's very flexible in use, it seems like,
Yeah.
on these buildings. And typically those walls, like you mentioned, taking down, those are, correct me if I'm wrong, but typically they're non-load bearing walls, so they're really easy to put up and to take down.
That's correct. Yeah, they're generally, like I said, non-load bearing. They're easy to take down and kind of maneuver into expanding the tenant spaces if need be.
Cody, what's the sweet spot? If I were to say I want to get into flex space, is there a sweet spot that you really like? We're talking like square footage, we're talking location, like what's the sweet spot that you really like? If you're going to plant all your money in them, where are you going to go?
Well, obviously, I'm a big fan of location. I think anybody is. I like 50 to 75,000 square feet. That's a very good number. But I also like a type of build that we call the showroom flex style build. And what this will have is it will have your garage door on the front, but it'll also have kind of a glass entryway that is kind of like a showroom glass. And so a lot of times whenever those are built, they'll have just one office, a restroom, and the rest warehouse. But the reason that's such a good look on the frontage is because that tailors to your broadest tenant pool. It can get your general subcontractors, your light industrial guys. It can get some retail guys, and get some office guys. And so that tailors to the widest tenant pool that you'll find is if you do the showroom flex style.
When you say you like, obviously, good locations, is there a specific location? Are you talking like, hey, industrial, we love last mile, we love urban core, we love is there a certain location, traffic count, what are you looking for as far as what's good?
So on these, you don't have to be infill to have a great location. You can either have really good frontage on a really good frontage road, or you can be in a demographic area that has, high home values, high growth patterns, high spending per capita. There's a lot of things that we look at anytime we're looking at a site for somebody to build on, or if we're looking at something to invest in, because we invest in them as well. And so there's a lot of different key factors, but it's usually either going to be traffic or the growth of the area. Or if it's in a a county area or an ETJ market where there's not a lot of extra room to build on, so that you're not going to be surrounded by competitors, but being close enough to the city that you're kind of getting the best of both worlds.
That makes sense. So when we talk about the build, it is this something that you can do? Are you typically doing spec building, or are you finding some of the users first? Is that a key to find? I got to find the users first, and then I can build to those users, or am I kind of spec building, assuming that, hey, we've done some research in the market, we're going to find the tenants that are going to be in here?
So the thing with the flex side is it's going to be very hard to find a user that you'll then build for. And the reason being is, especially if you're talking about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 square foot tenants, a lot of times these guys don't have that long of a period to wait to get it built. Mm-hmm. And so, like, take for example, we've got a leasing guy here, Nick, that's leasing a project not far from here, and it offers a bunch of 1,200 square foot units. He's signing 3 to 4 leases every 2-3 weeks out there, and they're moving in virtually, immediately after signing the lease. And so what you want to do is you want to figure out, if you're building, you want to figure out the velocity in the area. And like I said, running these demographics that we do these for people all the time, that will kind of show, hey, what kind of tenants you'll possibly look at getting out there. What's your target audience? What's your rental rate? What's your lease up timeline can look like? And these are very easy things to figure out. It's no different than whenever somebody's looking at doing a multifamily complex or a retail center. They just kind of look at, hey, how's the market look? What's the current rates out here? What's the current lease up timeline? How are we going to tailor our buildings? What amenities are we going to put in ours to help drive tenants here faster and achieve higher rental rates as well?
Good stuff. It's funny. My brother actually called me yesterday. He's looking for some flex space. You probably don't know of any in the Twin Cities here in Minnesota, but he's looking for a flex space, 3,000 square feet, and I'm like, man, I'd love to build you something like that. But unfortunately,
needs it sooner.
Yeah, his current landlord gave him a 2-month notice, and so now he's got to go. He's got to find something quickly, sooner than later. So I'm like, man, I wish I could build you something that quick, but not going to happen. I don't have the land. I don't have it teed up ready for you to go. So
no, but I'll tell you, that's the best part about the flex space is it's got such a large tenant pool, and in today's market, such a diverse tenant pool.
Diverse. That's what's cool about it. Yeah.
And it's got, I would say, the largest tenant pool and the most diverse tenant pool of any asset class, right? Because like you take, multifamily or storage, for example, I mean, they just have that one tenant, right, that they go to. Office just has office tenants. They're not leasing it to light industrial guys. Flex is reaching into all these other asset classes and bringing them to it and making it, a very good viable option for small businesses. Small businesses make up a majority of the businesses across the U.S. And so, with, like, take Dallas-Fort Worth, for example, when I got started in the industry, there were companies out here that just had centralized locations, right? Well, DFW has grown so much, and just as Houston and Atlanta and all these other markets, that a lot of these companies, like take CO2 companies, for example, they're not housing in the center of cities anymore. A lot of these guys are putting satellite or branch locations out, and these parks are just perfect for those companies as well. So it's tailoring to local, regional, national. It's tailoring to all companies.
Yeah. What's the best strategy? Is it to build new, or is it to buy something existing? And is there an obsolete flex space, like, or flex, building?
So there are some older ones that I've seen, and some new builds that people have done that the ceiling height's just too low.
What are we looking for?
And
ceiling height?
Like, you really don't want to be below 16, and you really don't want to be below 18. And so if you're going to build, I say to be at 20, 22 minimum. And so you've got some people that on some builds have just, cheapened out, or you have older construction that just has really low ceilings, right? Just like office, you can find old office buildings that are at 8 feet.
Right.
And, and so the good news on the flex side, though, and I was actually talking to somebody about this earlier, is I feel like it's getting into that area of, where multifamily was in like 2014, 2015, because, now a lot of people say, even on the storage side as well, is, it's harder to find good deals because so many of them have been bought or picked over or whatnot. There's still a tremendous amount of opportunity on the flex side. You can still find stuff where it's older ownership, and we literally just sold a deal that the market rents were half of the market. And we're working on 2 more that we're about to bring out from older ownerships that that have just not really raised rates and not kept up with it, because since 2018, 2020, 2022, I mean, you got a lot of these markets out here that have seen well over 5% in rent growth annually. And you got so many owners that have owned these things for so long that never increased any rents. And so, we've got another project that we sold that, they're at like $5 a foot, and they're already being converted over to 12 plus triple net. They were gross before. And so, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So there's still really good opportunity on the buy side. There's a lot of people building it, but I always tell people, don't sleep on the existing stuff, because there's plenty of opportunity there.
Yeah. So sounds like there's just so much different opportunity. It's funny because I see so many different uses in these buildings. I've seen churches in them. You see so many different users. But I wouldn't have thought about that ceiling height. And that you bring up a good point there. And that seems really high to me. I would have expected you to say, oh, you got to have at least 10-foot ceilings, but like,
no, you don't want that. Cause I mean, if you have 10 feet, I mean, gyms aren't going to come in there.
Nothing's
like, you got
coming
a
in there.
lot of
Gyms,
folks that are not going to come in there. And so there's so many places, you can't get car guys in there. A lot of those guys double stack the lifts to where they're parking a car underneath, raising a car. And so, ceiling height, I'll tell you, is key. And that's one thing that a lot of people kind of cheapen out on when they're building it, is they bring it down, because of cost, which I get.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you kind of hinder yourself. But there's also these things, the other unique thing is there's a lot of amenities that you can add on to these parks that weren't there in the past, that you can buy an existing park, or if you're building, you can add on there, which is like,
what's an amenity?
Like a side yard storage, a fenced in side yard. Those are like gold right now. You can do mezzanine space, you can do covered parking, you can do storage buildings. There's a lot of little things that you can, there's a lot of little things that you can do to amenitize these parks, to, bring in additional tenants that you would be able to bring, but also get a little bit higher rental rate. And so storage side yards in a lot of areas is very, very important. And we see big rental rates out of those guys right now.
Yeah, that's what I was like, because I'm dealing in the multifamily space. So value add, of course, we can do a lot of things. We can beauty up the kitchens and baths. We can just paint carpet, paint flooring, all that. So there's so many options, right? But industrial, this flex, it's like, well, what can you do, right? You can't, it's not like you're going in and, what are you gonna beauty up, right? That was kind of my question.
Replace the toilet,
replace a toilet, and maybe the concrete's got a crack, so you fix that. But yeah,
there's a lot of things. Monument signage,
signage,
putting those out. Tenants will pay for that. I mean,
probably security too, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, and these fenced in side yards where you're basically doing, I mean, it's super cheap and efficient, where you're essentially doing a 6-foot chain link fence. You do a mesh, or you do our panel, or whatever you want on it, and you fence in an area. And I mean, these contractors and companies just are paying top dollar for fenced in storage right now, and especially if they can have a unit where they can operate their business out of at the same time.
Yeah,
because you'll be surprised how many 2,000 square foot tenants need an additional 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 square feet of outside storage.
Yeah,
vehicles, materials, fleet, everything.
It makes a ton of sense. Is there an opportunity? think I've seen it before, but maybe I'm wrong. Is there an opportunity to sell these as condos, like the space as a condo?
Yes, and that's something that's been gaining a lot more popularity, is building it and selling it as condos. Obviously, when you do it that way, there's no essentially cash flow in it. You're
Yeah,
building to sell.
you're flipping it.
But these units can sell for a lot of money. Interesting though that you brought up that point. There's actually a company that we work with that will buy existing parks that are already leased out. They'll go and condo the units, because there's a process that you do when you have to condo something. You create the association. Each one now has its own legal description, its own tax ID. They'll create these condo units, and then they'll actually approach the tenants that are leasing and offer to sell them the units. And they've done very, very well at that. And I mean, I don't know why I or somebody didn't think of that years and years ago to do that, because I mean, you think about it, you've already got your buyer built in.
Yep.
And you're cash flowing while you're doing it.
Cash flowing.
And so it can't be done on every project. I'll tell you that. Every project's a little different. You got to make sure that it conforms to certain city codes, and so you got to make sure the parking is all situated, and you got to make sure everything's kind of lines up properly, because sometimes when you build a condo park, it's slightly different than building an investment park, because you're kind of making each unit its own individual unit. You're setting its parking here, you're doing these things. And sometimes when people just build a generic park, parking is a little more scattered. The stuff's just more generic lease up style. But yeah, we've seen people go in and buy these buildings for $115 a foot and turn around and resell them at 180, 185 as condos. And just approaching the tenant saying, hey, virtually your same rate you're paying, we'll help you get a loan. Here's a guy that'll do it for you. SBA, low down payment, buy a unit. If not, we're going to sell it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
and then you're going to have to move, and you're going to have to move all your stuff, whatever, and of course, the more crap you got there, the more you're probably incentivized to.
But, it's such a great thing. There's not another asset that I know of that you can go in and buy existing, condo out. And I mean, you can do it on some multifamily projects, depending on how it's, set up. But I mean, these are, for the most part, they're pretty efficient and built in a way that you can. But like I said, not everyone can be condoed, but it's a very unique tactic for sure.
Back to the operation side, is it, you said there's triple net leases. What's the most common type of term? Is it really varied around the market?
I mean, it ranges. I mean, your types of leases that you'll either see gross or triple net. Okay. And, gross, landlord pays everything. Triple net, tenant reimburses back, their portion of the taxes, insurance, common area maintenance.
Everything, yeah.
As far as the terms go, it's really rare to see anything over 3 years.
Rare to see anything over 3 years.
Over 3. It's usually 1, 2, and 3 years. And I don't advise anybody doing, especially on small bay, doing anything over 2 years. And it's really because of how high some of these rental rates have gone annually, year over year, on their inflation increases. And so, like I said, I mean, there's some markets that have been 5, 6, 7, 8% annual increases. And if you're setting a guy in here and you're paying him on 3% or something like that, then you got a big renewal coming up at that time where he's going to see a massive increase. And so, we don't like to see anything over 3 years.
One of the most painful things that I've experienced with my retail is the time it takes to get you got people coming to look, are they the right, tenant, and then signing the LOI and then going through the whole process. And then finally, you got tenant improvements and then finally getting them in. It's like a forever process. It drives me nuts, right? Because I'm used to multifamily. I got a showing. I got that same tenant. They're moving in 30 days or less. Right?
Oh yeah, and they're signing the lease pretty quickly.
Yeah. What's the timeline for flex? Are we talking long like the retail, or are we talking short? No, it's somewhere in between.
It's very quick. Our lease guys take leases out there with them on showings because it's not uncommon to get something signed up that day. And so, obviously, a lot of times we do credit checks, background checks, things of that nature.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as far as timing goes, no, these guys are usually pretty quick. They're usually looking to get in the next 30 days, very similar. And, sometimes they'll maybe want an extra office added or something of that nature. And, that gets taken care
So
of.
there's sometimes some tenant improvement credits.
Sometimes there is, yeah. And usually that's either built in or the tenant pays for it themselves. It's not uncommon to find flex spaces where tenants have a substantial amount of their own money in the spaces. We see that all the time. And so, but no, leases are very, very quick.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Man, this
it's
has
not
been
passing back and forth LOIs for days. And you realize it's a vape shop trying to come in and
the stuff you learn as you're in different asset classes. We've covered a lot. Is there anything else you want to cover on this space? Is there anything that you think our listeners would want to know, why they should be involved, whatever else you want to cover?
No, I like I said, I mean, we've got our Flex Space book out that me and the guys wrote. Our team, we've spent a lot of time on it. It kind of covers, how to get in it, how to build it, what to look out for, how to figure out if it's a good area or not. And so, just like anything on the real estate side, wherever you're doing it, you want to find a specialist in that area that knows kind of what's going on and kind of align yourself with the right people. That's what I always say, is make sure you have the right team.
Yeah.
Because I know I do.
How management intensive is it?
It's easy, Todd. It's easy. We sold a bunch of this stuff to a multifamily trust, and actually was talking to the managers not long ago, and they said they loved it because they don't hear a phone call after 5 o'clock. And I guess the stuff that they manage, that they heard it from 5 p.m. till 8 a.m. Here you hear it 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But it's also very rare that you even hear a phone call, because a lot of the tenants take care of their own stuff. And so the management style, retail people love it, self-storage guys love it because it's less turnover. But it is very easy on the management side.
One thing I've really enjoyed about our commercial properties outside of our multifamily and senior housing is that I am dealing with, and I guess I don't personally deal with them really, but we're dealing with professionals. They run their own business. They understand a lot of what we have to deal with. And so it's just a different, I guess, mentality, a different tenant base. And I like that a lot. And not that all of them are perfect. Certainly, you're not going to get 100% perfect tenants. There's going to be problems. You're never going to be without problems. But it's just a totally different mentality, I think, on the tenant base.
Yeah, no, you're dealing with businesses. You're dealing with people that are trying to grow a business, and I think that's also a fun thing about it is you get to bring someone in and watch their business grow, and hopefully expand in your park and do well.
Where's the best place to get that book that you Flex Space Domination?
I mean, it's on Amazon. It's you can get it off our website, flexbusinessparks.com. Check it out. Love to talk to anyone on it. We love Flex, and so we get quite a few calls from people that have actually read it and are thinking about getting into it, and we love giving our 2 cents and helping people get that area figured out.
Cool. Last couple questions, and then we're going to wrap up. What's a favorite book beside your own, of course, that you can recommend to our listeners?
I like the 10X rule. I don't know if you read that by Grant Cardone.
Yep.
I know it can be a little overwhelming if you take it kind of on its subsurface. Well, because I mean, essentially, what you can take away from it is, like, hey, if you want to do better in your life, just whatever you're doing, do 10 times more of it.
Yeah.
And you can't be like, well, I can't work 10 times more than I'm already working. Like, I'm trying, but there's a lot of little things in there that are good tidbits on just business and things of that nature. But yeah, his stuff, I always think you got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But I did also read another good one. I'm not getting religious or anything, but Joel Osteen, he had a good book just about think better and live better. And it was just really a book that was mostly just about just mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset. And so
I don't know if I've read that one. I've read a couple of his books, and actually, whether you like him as a person and a pastor, he's got some really good really good stuff to read. Yeah,
really
definitely.
Good insights. Yeah.
Okay, so last question. What are your 3 pillars of wealth creation?
So I was actually thinking about that earlier when you said you're going to ask that. And so, I think if you're looking to create wealth, you need to create an engine of some sort, right? And you got to create a process to get there. And then you got to create a management process to take care of it at that point also. And so, but I think to really get there is, you got the process, you got the management, but then to really get to that wealth portion is, not having to work every day and just being able to live the life that you want to live. And, I'm not there yet, none of our guys are there yet, but we're building that portfolio and we're building that process.
Yeah. On the journey. And that's what really matters. Cody, look, man, it's been a pleasure. Love learning about the space. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
Easy, flexbusinessparks.com. That's where me and the team are at. We're always there. Come over, give us a shout. Love to talk to you.
Is Dallas the market to be in?
No. It's a great market. It's an absolutely great market.
You're supposed to say yes.
Well, yeah, it is. No, it is. But look, there's great markets out here. Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Colorado, Atlanta, Arizona. There's a lot of great flex markets all across the U.S.
Yeah, love it. Cody, again, really appreciate it. It's fun to have you on the show and really teach us something we don't talk a lot about. So appreciate the time.
Good. Hope you learned something.
Oh, I'm going all in, man.
Take care. I like it. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.